What is up, everybody, and how's it going? I'm Alex Goldstick, and you are listening to the Spring Forward podcast. On today's episode, we're featuring our first guest who is not a player or front office employee of the Spring League. Dr. Sam Browd is a ridiculously accomplished neurosurgeon and neurologic researcher. He's also the co-founder of VICIS, the company that makes the official helmet of the Spring League. There's not much to take care of on the housekeeping front. The Spring League will be in season from July 10th to 14th for the showcase in San Diego, California. Without further ado, let's get to our interview with Dr. Browd. Dr. Sam Browd is a lot of things, which we'll get to in a moment, but for the purposes of his appearance on Spring Forward, he's the co-founder and chief medical officer of VICIS, the official helmet provider of the Spring League. The suffixes in his name, only some of which I know what they mean, include MD, PhD, FACS, FAANS, and FAAP. Dr. Browd, I'm excited to learn more about your innovative company and maybe what those suffixes mean. Welcome onto the Spring Forward podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So in addition to founding VICIS, and this is going to be a semi-long list, you're an attending neurosurgeon at Seattle Children's Hospital, medical director of the Seattle Children's Sports Concussion Program, director of the University of Washington Sports Health and Safety Institute, editorial board member for the Journal of Neurosurgery, adjunct associate professor of bioengineering and affiliate faculty of the Foster School of Business at the University of Washington, unaffiliated neurologic consultant to the NFL, and an independent neurologic consultant to the Seattle Seahawks. And if all that wasn't enough, on top of founding VICIS, you've also co-founded two other venture-backed biomedical startups, which are Aqueduct Critical Care, which is developing a self-regulating device to manage brain ventricular drains, and Navisonics is developing a micro-ultrasound device to accurately place catheters into the brain. Did I miss anything? How'd I do on all that pronunciation?
Amazingly good. Yeah, no, it's busy, but getting to do a lot of very fun and interesting things for sure.
So first and foremost, how do you find the time of the day to hold so many positions and devote your time to so many organizations and whatnot?
Well, I'm just lucky. I'm passionate about what I do, and taking care of kids at the hospital and thinking around ways to make either their health better or make them safer playing sports is a passion of mine, and it makes for an interesting day, and I feel like I'm doing good stuff.
You hold PhD and MD degrees from the University of Florida. But it seems you're very entrenched with the University of Washington and in the Seattle area. So before diving deeper into your company and the technology you guys are inventing, I think we need to know where your team allegiances lie, if you're even allowed to have them anymore.
So I'm a diehard Gator. Like, it's hard to go against where you went to college and spent a great 10 years in Gainesville, but out here in Seattle, we have some great sports, and certainly love the Huskies and Seahawks. And it's a good place to be a sports fan, but you got to keep your allegiances, right?
Of course, and because you're a Gator fan, I will mention that the first player the Spring League announced that will be in the summer showcase in San Diego in a couple weeks is Austin Appleby, who's former University of Florida quarterback.
Yeah, we love that.
Where does your interest in the game of football begin, whether it be medical or otherwise?
I think I grew up in Florida, and, we certainly love our football there. And in college, football is everything in Gainesville, and just got, really behind it and interested as a fan. And as things moved along, professionally for me, in neurosurgery, we take care of, young people who have head injuries, and got very interested in football and kind of managing concussions and just really looking into that space. And so it's been this arc for me over time where, certainly love the game and want to see it played by people safely, and just got more interested in that over time.
Now, VICIS, your company, is a Seattle-based organization focused on sports protective technologies. So tell us about when VICIS was formed and who else besides you was involved in the development of the company.
So VICIS dates back about 5 years now, and out in Seattle, we're, very tech-focused out here. And around that time, a lot of people were looking at sensor technologies, and it just seemed like it was a bit after the fact. We were trying to diagnose a concussion or look at the forces around the impact and try and make some, medical decisions around that. And as we started to look at current helmet technology, we realized that it was pretty antiquated, and technology in the helmet space hadn't evolved much really since the 70s or the 80s. And I'm lucky out here. We're at a spectacular university, and basically I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with our other co-founder, Per Reinhall, who's the chair of mechanical engineering at the University of Washington. He runs the Boeing Research Lab, so he's a very brilliant mechanical engineer. And we sat down and started to talk about football helmets. And I said, on the medical side, we got a pretty good idea of the type of forces we want to try and limit. And for concussion, these are rotational forces where the brain's moving in a particular direction. And, we started to talk about, how do you engineer around these medical issues. And around that same time, we brought in a gentleman by the name of Dave Marver, who is a very seasoned medtech executive, and the three of us founded the company VICIS, and it's been off to the races from that point forward.
Now, the three of you sort of seem to form a lot of different sides of both the medical part of the business and the engineering part of the business, and then the business part of the business. Do the three of you, in your mind, create that perfect level of expertise to allow a company like VICIS to not only flourish, but basically be born with a certain level of credibility?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. It takes a very unique group to be able to do, I think, what we've done. And, we have brought to really sort of this core medical expertise, and then the engineering, and then the business background and experience to really make the science real and something that can get out and scale in a way that we can reach, players. And so I think having the three of us is this nice trifecta that's really allowed us to accelerate the development of the helmet technology and then really get it out into the real world. And so it's been a great effort and a great partnership between the three of us to see this work well.
Now, you said before VICIS that helmet technology hadn't significantly improved in decades. What was the reason for that? I mean, did the research exist and the companies were ignoring it, and so sort of the only way around that was to start your own company? Or you had this great level of expertise and this trifecta of partners that sort of just was the perfect storm for you to start your own?
I think it's a combination of different things. Helmets were originally designed to prevent catastrophic injuries. So what those are skull fractures or bleeding in the brain. And they've done a good job at that, but they were never really built with the intention of addressing concussion and those type of forces that lead to concussion. And so we had a really unique opportunity to start from scratch and say, if you were going to take the latest medical knowledge of these particular rotational forces and apply best engineering principles, where would you go with that? And so it was a very unique opportunity to essentially start from scratch with no preconceived ideas and then move forward. And I think that's allowed us to, develop some very unique technology here. And I think it'd just be challenging for an incumbent helmet technology company to really think outside of the box like that. And it's been a very valuable thing for us.
So let's talk about the actual helmet. Your company's first product was the 01 football helmet, launched in 2017 and worn by more than 75 players on 18 NFL teams. The helmet ranked first in 2017 and 2018 in the NFLPA helmet performance test. It was first in the 2018 Virginia Tech Star helmet ratings and was named one of Time Magazine's 25 best inventions of 2017. In addition, the company is also one of Fast Company's 2018 most innovative companies. So how does the 01 differ from traditional helmets?
So the 01's really fundamentally different than anything else that's been on the market. So if you look at the core technology, there's a layer of columns that are in the helmet. And what's unique about the columns is they can absorb and mitigate force both in the linear direction, but also what we call in shear. So when somebody's hit from the side, the columns can move in different directions and help absorb that force differently. So not only are the linear forces dealt with well, but the rotational forces are mitigated better in our helmet than in others. And so that's what's led to, I think, a really revolutionary change in the technology.
I guess I keep coming back to, like, why isn't the competition doing this? It's unbelievable that VICIS is on the market and is helping players avoid concussions, which is a semi-new worry. I mean, it's been on the landscape for a while, but like you said, we were trying to avoid those skull fractures and brain bleeding. That's hard to say. The 01 out-tested 32 other helmets in the NFL safety trials for the past 2 years in a row. So, I mean, have you been pushing the more established companies to innovate faster? Or is there something about VICIS's tech combined with your medical expertise that's allowing for a larger impact for a company as young as yours?
Yeah, I look at it as a DNA issue in the company. And so if you look at sort of who is in VICIS, we have upwards of 25 engineering and physicists in the company. And so if you look at competing companies, the way that they've approached technology is very different than us. We are really a technology company who's working in the football helmet space. And so if you come to VICIS, the way we've been able to do this is we have a huge group of engineering staff who can do rapid prototyping. We have all the testing facilities for Virginia Tech, for the NFL testing, other types of testing in-house. So the guys will AutoCAD something, they'll mock it up, they'll test it, and then they'll iterate and invent around that. And we've been able to move very quickly with a very focused and highly competent technology team. And it's just a very different approach than has really been put forth in this space up until now. And so, I'm excited about what we're doing. And I'm also hopeful that the other companies will pay attention and accelerate their technology development, because at the end of the day, we want to see better products out there that are going to be safer for, both at the youth level and pro level in college. So we want to see these technologies out and moving forward. But we've been able to do this in a way that I think has been challenging for others to implement and follow on.
On that safety note, in your mind, is the helmet the number one thing that the game of football or football players can improve to avoid concussions? Or do you see an inevitable change in the way the game will need to be played in order to ensure the longevity of the sport and those that play it?
Yeah, I think helmets are an important piece, certainly, and technology is going to play a very fundamental role in improving the safety of the sport. But I do think that there are other aspects that are evolving that are also equally important. So certainly the rules of the game are evolving and changing, and you see that at, certainly like the level of the NFL, for example, where they're starting the kickoff has changed, and that's in direct response to data showing where, particular injuries are coming from. And I think coaching techniques and how we're training is fundamentally important, and you're seeing an evolution trying to take the head out of the game as much as possible with various, techniques for blocking and tackling. And so I think it's going to be a combination of multiple things that get us to the safest possible place to play, not just football, but other sports too.
VICIS is funded and or advised by several current and former NFL players, which include Hall of Famers Roger Staubach and Jerry Rice, and current players like Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin, and Alex Smith. What has it been like for your company to receive the support and guidance of some of the biggest names in the game?
It's incredibly fun, obviously, but it's very validating for us to see these luminaries in the sport come forward and say, hey, we think you guys are doing the right thing the right way, and we fundamentally believe in the technology and approach that is being applied. And so to see these guys come on board and really take a critical eye to what we're doing and say, yeah, this makes a ton of sense, has been really spectacular. And it's fun to see these guys get involved, and their backing's been super meaningful for us. So we're very pleased they're involved, and it's been really rewarding to see them engaged.
And we mentioned earlier that VICIS is already on NFL fields. You're also, at least selfishly, exclusively a spring league helmet provider. But because you're not an official sponsor of a league like the NFL, VICIS branding doesn't appear on players' helmets when they wear them. So who should fans be looking out for this season that wear your product, and what defining characteristics aesthetically make a VICIS helmet that people can use to identify the product?
Yeah, so, we had about 75 guys in the helmet last year, and, Russell Wilson, Alex Smith, there's a variety of kind of notable players who were in the helmet. We're anticipating this year that the numbers in the NFL will be 2 to 3x what they were last year. The notable features of the helmet certainly are the venting, and if you look at the helmet online, you can pick it out on the field. The face mask is fairly distinguishable. There's definitely features that stand out, but in the NFL, as you know, like the stickering and branding and all of that stuff, it's a little harder to pick one helmet out versus another.
Back to the Spring League. In the first year of the Spring League, VICIS provided some of the helmets for the players. And this year in Austin, the company provided helmets for every player. Can you talk to me about the partnership that you formed with the league?
Yeah, so it's been an incredible opportunity for us, and we've welcomed the chance to partner with the Spring League to come in and provide helmets to the players. We look at the players in the Spring League as those on the elite level and who deserve the best technology that's out there. And they've been very welcoming to what we've been doing, and the partnership's been, exceptional for us. And we look forward to that continuing. We get great feedback from the players that allows us to continue evolving and tweaking what we're doing, and appreciate all the players, comments, feedback, and input. And I think it's been a great partnership for us.
What are the most common comments or feedback that you get from players, especially at the Spring League, but just players in general that are wearing the product that you hear most often?
There's two comments I think that are most common for us to hear. One is at the time of impact, the players seem to feel that there's definitely a reduction in sort of the jarring impact that they're getting, certainly if they're hitting head to head. And so it's been a common theme that we'll hear players say that they feel that the blow is softened when they're impacting another player, and that they're in this kind of moment where they don't have sort of a fading out or that moment of impact like they have in other helmets. And then certainly the fit is the other piece that we hear a lot, in the comfort of the helmet. It doesn't have air bladders. It's, custom fit by taking different liner configurations to that individual's head size and shape. And so the fitting and the comfort of the helmet is been one of the things that's been most popular also with the athletes. And again, it's one of those things that got designed into the helmet that's just very different. No air bladders. The fit's really good, and we know properly fitting helmet has safety advantages. So we've been excited about all those different types of feedback we're getting from players.
Now, I know you're on the medical side, but aesthetically, I think players care a lot how they look. How much effort do you put into how the helmet looks on a player's head versus safety? Obviously, safety is the most important, but I guess a quick side note I can think of, and I'm a Mets fan, and when David Wright kept getting hit on the head, he came back and had this sort of huge helmet that led to, Twitter blowing up and him thinking that he looked silly. So how much of the aesthetics make its way into the VICIS design to make the players feel cool or, look good, play good?
Yeah, so it was a major focus of ours early on. We knew that we're talking about young, male athletes, and that, on their concern list, 1 through 5, and maybe it's 1 through 10 is, how do they look? What's the mirror test? Do I look tough and fierce in this thing? I don't want to stand out and look weird because the helmet's huge, or there's some aesthetic to it that's not favorable. And so while we were going through the process of designing the helmet, we also spent a ton of energy around the industrial design process and talking to players and coaches and trainers and equipment managers to understand what do they want in a helmet? And we came to the realization pretty quickly that people want a helmet to look like a helmet. You have a little bit of leeway in terms of kind of the design aesthetic, but it needs to look like a helmet. And, these young players want this thing to look cool. They want to look tough. They want to look, like a warrior in the helmet. And so we made a lot of, we put a lot of energy into the design aesthetic of the helmet. And, I think it looks really amazing. And you put the face shield on that, we're partnered with Oakley, and the helmet looks amazing. And we've gotten that feedback from the players. They love the way this thing looks.
Now, lastly, does VICIS have its eyes set on sports beyond football? I mean, where do the bounds of the company's innovations and targets for next products lie?
So I think through this process, we've realized that what we found in football lies in other sports. If you look, for example, in hockey at the design of a hockey helmet and how safe a hockey helmet is, especially looking on, for example, Virginia Tech ratings, there's a lot of opportunity to innovate into other sports. And so we're starting to take an active look at how our technology can be adapted and implemented into other helmeted sports. And so, we're certainly taking a look at hockey and bike helmets and skiing. We have a effort going now with the U.S. military to put liners into military helmets. They have a fairly significant concussion problem in the military, and we think that we can do something that's very meaningful to benefit the troops, kind of along the lines of what we've done in football. And so I think, we're very interested in this. We think we're onto something, really important here, and we think that technology can play a role in improving the safety in a variety of sports. And we want to certainly be that company that can move out there and bring these technologies forward.
Of course. Well, most immediately, you can find VICIS products at the Spring League Showcase in San Diego at the beginning of July, and then on the heads of Russell Wilson, Alex Smith, and it seems like upwards of a couple hundred NFL guys this season.
Yeah, that's our hope. It'd be really exciting, and we're on this rocket ship, and it's great to see it happening.
Well, Doctor, as we discussed at the beginning, you've got an extremely full plate, so I'll let you go. But thank you for taking us through the company and improving the health of the sport we all love.
Yeah, we all love football, and we just want the players out there playing as safe as possible. And if we can be a piece of that, then that's a great thing to be involved with. So thanks for your time today. It was great to talk to you.
All right, that will bring us to the end of episode 18. Thanks again to Dr. Browd for taking the time out of his very busy schedule to talk to us about all he's doing to help improve football safety. You can follow the Spring League on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at the Spring League. You can follow me on Twitter at AGStick and on Instagram at Alex Goldstick. All music was provided to Spring Forward by Joshua Rosner. Everyone have a fun and safe July 4th. We'll be back after the holiday. Later.